When my best friend, Seraphina, told me she was getting a divorce, she asked if she could stay at my place. I agreed, of course. But I never expected my husband, Orion, to start looking at Seraphina the way he did. And then, one day, I came home to find them. He was the one who said he didn't want kids, Seraphina sobbed, her voice thick with tears. And now, he's been seeing another woman behind my back. The mistress is 5 months pregnant. He said he wants a divorce. I refused, and he hit me. She pulled up her sleeve, revealing a constellation of ugly purple bruises blossoming on her pale skin. Seraphina was my closest friend. We'd grown up together, sharing classrooms. From elementary school through high school. She was stunningly beautiful, the kind of girl who effortlessly attracted the attention of every boy in school. I, on the other hand, was plain, the kind of person who blended into the background. My one saving grace was my academic ability. I'd managed to get into a good university, while Seraphina went to a vocational college. We stayed in touch during those years. Seraphina would often regale me with stories of the many boys vying for her attention. My own romantic life was non-existent, leaving me to bury myself in my studies. After graduation, we both returned to our hometown. I threw myself into job hunting, while Seraphina focused on finding a husband. By the time I landed my first job, Seraphina had already snagged her current husband, Julian Thorne, a corporate executive 6 years her senior, and undeniably a prize catch. Married life for Seraphina was a whirlwind of shopping sprees, afternoon teas, and exotic vacations, all meticulously documented on her social media. How could he do this to you? I fumed, my hands clenching into fists. Give me his number. I'll talk to him. The thought of any man hitting a woman, especially my Seraphina, made my blood boil. No, it's over. We're definitely getting divorced. I've already moved out. I hired a lawyer, and I'll be filing a lawsuit soon. But I need a favor. She wiped away her tears, her red-rimmed eyes pleading. Anything. Just name it. I need a place to stay for a while. I haven't told my mother about the divorce yet. You know how she is. If she found out, all hell would break loose. She looked at me with such vulnerability that I couldn't possibly refuse. The moment she arrived, suitcase in hand, I should have known. She was my friend, heartbroken and bruised, both physically and emotionally. Of course, I couldn't turn her away. Of course, you can stay. I'll get the guest room ready. My spare room was usually empty. I figured she wouldn't be staying for too long anyway. Thank you, Lyra. You're a lifesaver. Should you check with Orion first? I feel bad imposing. Orion was my husband. We'd gotten married the year after Seraphina. Orion and I had a lot in common, unremarkable appearances, and a shared dedication to hard work. He was a year ahead of me in high school, and we'd reconnected through an alumni group. It felt natural, almost inevitable, that we'd end up together. Don't worry about it. He's not that petty. Just make yourself comfortable. I smiled reassuringly, helping her carry her suitcase into the guest room. After preparing fresh linens for Seraphina, I still sent Orion a text, explaining the situation. He took a while to reply, probably busy. It's fine. Your friend is my friend. I smiled, sending back a love you emoji. Seraphina took a shower and changed into her pajamas. I couldn't help but admire how well she took care of herself. Her skin glowed with a healthy radiance, and her thick, wavy black hair cascaded down her shoulders. Her figure, accentuated by the silk pajamas, was undeniably alluring. I glanced at my own reflection, my complexion sallow from too many late nights, my body lacking in curves. I felt a pang of inadequacy. It was hard to imagine what kind of woman could steal a husband from Seraphina. We chatted on the sofa for a while. Although we'd occasionally met up after her marriage, we hadn't had a real heart-to-heart like this in ages. Lyra, you and Orion have been married for years now. Why haven't you had kids? Seraphina asked. We've talked about it. We want to save up a bit more money first. A few years ago, Orion and I had started an interior design company. In the early days, we were short-staffed and often worked until 2 or 3 in the morning. Orion came from a rural background. I hadn't asked for a dowry when we got married, and he'd vowed to give me a good life. I'd thrown myself into the business alongside him, sacrificing sleep and, apparently, my complexion. After years of hard work, we'd finally bought this 2-bedroom apartment. We wanted to give our future child the best possible start, so we agreed to save a little more before starting a family. You can never have enough money, Seraphina said, her eyes clouding over. A couple needs children to solidify their relationship. Look at Julian and me. If we'd had a child, we wouldn't be in this mess. She started to cry again. Don't cry, I soothed, feeling helpless. There are plenty of other men out there. Forget that cheating jerk. You'll find someone better. As we were talking, Orion came home. He'd met Seraphina before when she'd visited, so they weren't strangers. Orion greeted her politely, but I noticed his face flush slightly. I realized Seraphina was still in her low-cut silk pajamas, revealing a generous amount of cleavage. Seraphina, why don't you change? Let's go out for dinner. It's already past 8, and I'm starving. I suggested, trying to defuse the awkwardness. Sure, just give me a minute. Seraphina went back to her room to change. I playfully pinched Orion's arm. Did you get a good look? I teased, pretending to be annoyed. What are you talking about? Do you think I'm that kind of guy? He coughed, putting down his briefcase. Seraphina quickly changed into a fitted teal dress that not only showed off her perfect figure, but also accentuated her porcelain-like skin. I caught a whiff of her subtle perfume, feeling another pang of envy. She was truly a refined woman. Orion drove us to a nearby restaurant. During the meal, Orion pulled out a beautifully wrapped gift box from his suit pocket and placed it in front of me. Our 5th wedding anniversary is coming up. Remember how you said you loved this necklace when we went shopping last time? I bought it for you. I opened the box. A diamond necklace nestled inside, the price tag still attached. I was just saying that casually. This necklace is too expensive. Why did you waste your money? I looked at the price tag, feeling a twinge of guilt. Wow, it's beautiful. Lyra, you're so lucky. Orion is so good to you. Seraphina's eyes were filled with envy. To be honest, I felt a secret thrill. It was usually me envying Seraphina. This was the first time she'd ever envied me. He's never been romantic. This is the first time he's ever given me such an expensive gift. I said, but my heart was singing. Orion helped me put on the necklace, and I gave him a quick kiss on the cheek. When we got home, Seraphina went to her room, and Orion and I went to ours. Honey, let's have a baby, I whispered, snuggling against him as he scrolled through his phone in bed. Sure. I'll quit smoking first, and then we'll try in 6 months. It's all about having a healthy baby these days, right? He replied, still browsing the web. If we wait for you to quit smoking, we might not conceive until next year. How about we start now? I tickled his armpit, knowing he was incredibly ticklish. Oh, you think you're so clever, huh? He flipped me over, pinning me beneath him, and began to undress me. In the heat of the moment, I suddenly remembered the person in the next room. Be quiet. It's not appropriate. Seraphina's probably still awake, I whispered. Orion was breathing heavily. He was usually so polite in public, but in bed, he was a different person, a complete contrast. I often teased him, calling him a wolf in sheep's clothing. Or, how about we invite Seraphina to join us? A bolt of lightning struck me. I pushed him away, sitting up abruptly. What did you say? Are you crazy? Why are you overreacting? I was just joking. He looked at me, bewildered, as if I were the one who'd said something wrong. That's not something to joke about. Do you have feelings for Seraphina? A sense of unease, a feeling I'd never experienced before, washed over me. What are you talking about? It was just a joke, a bit of spice between husband and wife. You know? Forget it. Just pretend I didn't say anything. He got out of bed and went to the bathroom to take a shower. I listened to the sound of the running water, my mind churning. Orion came out of the bathroom and fell into a deep sleep. But I tossed and turned, unable to find any peace. The next morning, Orion left for work without even eating breakfast. Even Seraphina noticed he was sulking. She kept asking me what was wrong. I made an excuse, saying something had happened at the company and Orion was in a bad mood. Seraphina had to go to her lawyer's office to discuss the details of the divorce agreement. I took the opportunity to visit my mother. I told my mother about Seraphina's situation. Karma's a bitch, my mother said, chopping vegetables. Valerie was a mistress who broke up a family. Now her daughter's family is being broken up by a mistress. Isn't that poetic justice? Valerie was Seraphina's mother. Seraphina had inherited her mother's beauty. Seraphina's parents had divorced long ago. Her mother had a reputation for being loose. Years ago, she'd seduced a married man. The man went home and demanded a divorce from his wife, driving her to commit suicide. She was 3 months pregnant when she died. I told you to stay away from Seraphina. You never listen. Like mother, like daughter. As the old saying goes, dragons beget dragons, phoenixes beget phoenixes. And a rat's son will dig holes. Seraphina and her mother are the same. They both have that look. My mother had never liked me being friends with Seraphina. Mom, don't say that. Seraphina's going through a tough time. She's staying at my place right now. She hasn't even told her mother about the divorce. When my mother heard that Seraphina was staying at my house, her eyes widened. What? You let her stay at your house? My dear daughter, you are too kind. In my mother's eyes, Seraphina and her mother were reincarnated vixens, and all married women should stay far away from them. She's already there. I can't just kick her out, can I? Besides, we're good friends. She wouldn't have any designs on Orion, would she? I said this without much conviction. I suddenly remembered Orion's words last night and the way he looked at Seraphina. I couldn't help but regret letting her stay at our home. Orion's not exactly her type. I'm more worried about Orion getting any ideas. You're my daughter. I'm just being honest. It's not that I don't trust your husband, but men are all the same deep down. Your father was a good man, wasn't he? He had no money, no looks, but he still made mistakes when it came to women. My mother was blunt. Even though my father had been dead for years, she still spoke of his past mistakes with bitterness. When my mother had just given birth to me, my father had an affair with a young woman at his workplace. Luckily, my mother found out early and acted decisively. She nipped the affair in the bud before my father and the woman developed deep feelings. But the incident left a scar on my mother's heart. She would always be saddened whenever it was brought up. Relationships are fragile. You might be sleeping next to a man for years, but you might not even know what he's thinking. Especially since you and Orion don't have any children. On the way home from my mother's, I was filled with regret. But at the same time, I felt like I was being overly sensitive. Was my 5-year marriage to Orion really so fragile? Why couldn't I trust him more? But when I thought of Orion's words, I felt a heavy weight on my chest. I could understand a man having sexual fantasies about a beautiful woman. But when the object of those fantasies was living under the same roof, could those fantasies become reality? When I got home, both Orion and Seraphina were already there. Orion never came home this early. He was a workaholic, always the last one to leave the office. Why was he home so early today? Could it be because Seraphina was here? Lyra, you're just in time. Your husband said he's taking us out for a fancy dinner. I was just about to call you. Seraphina greeted me warmly, linking her arm through mine. How did it go with the lawyer? When is the court date? I asked, my eyes unconsciously drifting towards Orion. Next week, I think. The lawyer said he'll fight for the best possible outcome for me. Seraphina smiled, looking confident. That's good. I replied absent-mindedly. Orion took us out for dinner. I sat in the passenger seat and Seraphina sat in the back. The restaurant was a bit far from our house. Orion drove smoothly, and the three of us chatted casually. When Seraphina's husband's affair came up, Orion said, "Your husband really doesn't know how to appreciate you. How could he look for someone else when he has such a beautiful wife?" I shot him a glare. Seraphina saw this and, being highly perceptive, quickly said with a laugh, "Orion, don't tease me. Lyra is the most beautiful person in your heart, right? Haha." Orion looked at me sheepishly, a bit embarrassed. Yes, of course. I ate the meal listlessly while Orion and Seraphina chatted away. They talked about everything from work to life, Orion recounting stories from his university days and then talking about our courtship and starting the business. Lyra has always been such an independent and capable woman. Unlike me, I always need someone to take care of me. Seraphina rested her chin on her hands, her eyes half closed as she looked at me. She'd had half a bottle of wine and was slightly tipsy, making her even more alluring. Yes, sometimes she's too independent. I wish she'd be a little softer. We'd have fewer arguments that way. Orion said, his words laced with meaning. Seraphina, what are your plans for the future? I'm sure your mother will set you up with someone new, since you're still young. Your mother is amazing. She knows so. Many eligible men. I deliberately emphasized eligible men, hoping Orion would realize that Seraphina would never be interested in a small business owner like him. I don't have any plans yet. This whole experience has taught me a lesson. A woman should marry down. That's the only way to be truly cherished. Seraphina gave me a meaningful look. At the time, I didn't understand what that look meant. Orion and I had made a pact before we got married. No matter what we argued about, we wouldn't stay mad at each other for more than 3 days. So, we quickly made up. Seraphina was out most of the day, only returning home to sleep. Orion and Seraphina barely saw each other. This eased my mind considerably. In the second week of Seraphina's stay, Orion landed a big project. He asked me to come back to the company to help. Orion said, "Once this project is done, I'll seriously quit smoking and we'll have a baby." I was swamped with work at the company, and Seraphina was busy running around for her divorce case. On the day of Seraphina's court hearing, I couldn't go with her because I had something to do. When I got home, I asked her how the court ruled. She shook her head, her face pale. Seraphina had hoped to get a significant portion of their marital assets, even if they were getting divorced. But Julian wasn't a fool. He'd already transferred all his assets. He'd only left a few $100,000. The house and the car weren't in his name. He knew this was going to happen. He'd planned to divorce me all along. Seraphina collapsed on the sofa, sobbing. "At least you got some money. It's better than nothing. You'll have to rely on yourself from now on. You need to be strong." Seeing Seraphina like this, I didn't know what to say. I could only offer these words of comfort. "Yes, you're right. Men are all pigs. From now on, I'll rely on myself." Seraphina wiped away her tears, her face a mask of determination. Seraphina's mother eventually found out about the divorce. I heard she went to Julian's house and caused a huge scene, stressing out Julian's mistress so much that she almost had a miscarriage. The lawsuit was over, the divorce was finalized, and Seraphina had no reason to continue living at my house. Seraphina was quite sensible. She proactively suggested moving in with her mother. "I'm so sorry for imposing on you both for so long," Seraphina said politely. "Don't mention it. Come visit me anytime." I felt a twinge of guilt, secretly relieved that Seraphina was leaving. With Seraphina gone, my life with Orion returned to normal. Orion was busy with work, coming home late every day. 3 months flew by. Orion had said he'd quit smoking after finishing this project and then we'd have a baby. But I saw no sign of him quitting. My mother had slipped and broken her leg. The doctor said she needed surgery. I went to the hospital to take care of her. My mother was immobile and needed constant care. I was by her side almost constantly. Orion came to the hospital to see my mother and gave her a few $1,000s. "Lyra, you just focus on taking care of your mother. Don't worry about things at home," Orion said, peeling an apple for my mother. The woman in the next bed praised my mother for being so lucky, having such a filial daughter and son-in-law. My mother beamed with pride. "Orion, you don't have to come so often. Go and focus on your work. Lyra is here to take care of me. Making money is important." My mother was hospitalized for almost a month. Orion only came to visit twice. When my mother was discharged and I returned home, I noticed something was off. Orion's dirty shirts were piled up in the washing machine unwashed. I always hand-washed his shirts. I sorted through the sour-smelling clothes, preparing to wash them. On one of the shirts, I found a long, curly hair. My hair was short. And this hair wasn't stuck to the outside of the shirt, it was stuck to the inside. Even if Orion had accidentally brushed against someone and picked up their hair, it would have been on the outside of his shirt, not the inside. Unless he'd taken his shirt off. The thought made my head spin. I was suspecting my husband. I suspected he was cheating. But it was just a guess. I didn't confront Orion immediately. I had no concrete proof. As the saying goes, you need to catch a thief with the stolen goods and a cheater in the act. How could I accuse him based on a single hair? The curly hair. I suddenly thought of Seraphina. She had long, wavy hair. I opened Seraphina's WeChat. Seraphina had been posting selfies frequently lately. In the photos, she smiled seductively, her low-cut tops revealing a generous amount of cleavage, sparking the imagination. I sent her a message. "Hey, what are you up to?" After about 10 minutes, Seraphina replied, "I'm with my mom, visiting my grandma in our hometown. I've been here for over a month. It's so boring." Hearing Seraphina say that, I felt relieved. She'd been in her hometown for over a month. Seraphina's hometown was over 1,000 kilometers away from our city. Even though I wasn't home, I could be sure that Orion hadn't left the city. If I hadn't run into Jasmine, I would never have discovered that I was the real fool. Jasmine was a high school classmate. It had been a long time since we'd last seen each other. I bumped into her while I was out shopping. Jasmine had married earlier than I had and already had 2 children. Lyra, is that really you? I've been staring for ages, afraid I was mistaken, Jasmine exclaimed, grabbing my hand excitedly. Jasmine, it's been so long. I've changed a lot, so it's understandable you wouldn't recognize me. You've lost so much weight. Unlike me, I've gained so much I'm unrecognizable. It's been ages since our old classmates got together. We should organize a reunion sometime. By the way, I ran into Seraphina a few days ago. She's gotten even more beautiful. Jasmine's words stunned me. You saw Seraphina a few days ago? Where? At Pearl Plaza. I took my kids there to play, and I saw Seraphina at the outdoor cafe. She looked like she was waiting for someone. Seraphina had clearly told me she was going back to her hometown with her mother. Why would she lie to me? Could it be? After saying goodbye to Jasmine, I returned home in a daze. I was certain that Seraphina and Orion were hiding something from me. And if they were hiding it, they definitely wouldn't admit it. In desperation, I hired a private investigator to follow Orion. The investigator was efficient. He soon handed me a stack of photos. In the photos, Orion was holding Seraphina's hand, coming out of Seraphina's mother's house. There were also photos of Orion and Seraphina kissing in the car. My mind went blank. Even though I'd mentally prepared myself for the worst, I couldn't accept this reality. My best friend and my husband had betrayed me. I couldn't hold back any longer. I had to confront Seraphina. I messaged Seraphina on WeChat, sending her the photos of her and Orion, and demanding, "How can you do this? Doesn't your conscience bother you?" Seraphina's chat box kept showing, typing. For a long time. Finally, she replied with a single word, "Sorry." Sorry. Those 3 letters were so weak, so inadequate. I would have rather she tried to defend herself, to tell me it wasn't what it looked like, instead of this bland, meaningless apology. Let's meet and talk. Let's settle this once and for all. Meet me at the Red House Cafe near your place. I'll be waiting. Okay. To my surprise, Seraphina agreed immediately. I calmed myself down and headed out. My emotions were a tangled mess. I wondered if I should slap her across the face or pathetically beg her to give Orion back. To me, it takes 2 to tango, and I didn't believe Seraphina had actively seduced Orion. But things had come to this, and one of them had to be dealt with first. Seraphina arrived before me. She'd ordered me an orange juice. She was still impeccably made up, wearing an expensive dress, looking breathtakingly beautiful. Tell me, when did the 2 of you start? I just couldn't understand how they could do this right under my nose. The second day I moved into your house. Orion added me on WeChat behind your back. If you want a precise start date, I guess it was then. Seraphina clearly had no intention of hiding anything from me anymore. I welcomed a wolf into my home. I kindly let you stay at my place, and you seduced my husband. How can you face me? I struggled to contain my rage. Orion was the one who pursued me. Why don't you look at yourself and figure out why he fell for someone else? Her words were ridiculous. She was having an affair with Orion, and I was supposed to reflect on myself? Did you think your marriage to Orion was perfect? He's not a man content with mediocrity. When Seraphina said the word mediocrity, she glanced at me. Of course, I knew I was the mediocrity she was referring to. In short, Orion had made some money and gotten carried away. He felt I was no longer worthy of him. It was like a man wanting to change his car once he got rich. He wanted to trade me, his wife, in for a new model. Seraphina, we've grown up together. I've always considered you my best friend. How can you do this to me? Don't you feel any guilt? I was still clinging to the hope that Seraphina might have a shred of shame, that she might willingly leave Orion. If Seraphina was willing to break it off with Orion, it would be much easier for me to talk to him. To be honest, I didn't want a divorce. I still had feelings for Orion. I was trying to salvage our marriage. Lyra, why don't you understand? Even if it wasn't me, Orion would have found another woman eventually. He's a man who's never satisfied. Your marriage with him would never have been happy. I looked at Seraphina, feeling like I was looking at a stranger. This woman, who had cried in front of me before, now had a heart as hard as stone. I noticed the bracelet on her wrist, a new Cartier. Orion bought that for you, didn't he? Seraphina didn't deny it. Of course, Orion had to spend money to win her over. Just then, Orion appeared in my line of sight. He looked anxious, almost running towards me. He shielded Seraphina behind him. Lyra, Whatever you want to say it to me. This is my fault, not Seraphina's. Whatever you have, take it out on me. Seraphina, playing the perfect damsel in distress, hid behind Orion, looking pitiful. Lyra, it's all my fault. You can hit me, yell at me, but please don't blame Orion. What a manipulative bitch. Lyra, I'm sorry. Let's get a divorce. I really like Seraphina. I hope you can let us be together. Orion didn't give me any chance to salvage the situation. He went straight to asking for a divorce. I gritted my teeth. Things had reached a point of no return with Orion. He was determined to divorce me. There was no turning back. Fine. Divorce. You'll regret this. I spat out the threat and fled from the cafe. They were the ones in the wrong, yet I was the one running away. I was pathetic. I walked the streets in a daze, my heart aching. I never imagined my marriage to Orion, which had lasted for years, could be so fragile. Even though I'd sensed Orion's wandering eye, I was powerless to stop it. I had no idea when Orion had started having feelings for Seraphina. Maybe it was years ago, the first time he saw her. But back then, he didn't have much money and Seraphina wasn't divorced yet. He knew he didn't have a chance, so he willingly played the role of my husband. I was just a tool. The thought of Orion making love to me while thinking of Seraphina made me nauseous. I didn't hide Orion's affair with Seraphina from my mother. After hearing my story, my mother gave me a good scolding. I thought she would encourage me to win Orion back, but she urged me to get a divorce. A man who changes his mind so easily, you should divorce him quickly. You're still young, you can find someone better. I asked my mother why she wasn't encouraging me to fight for him, since she hadn't given up on my father easily when he had an affair. If it weren't for you, would I have stayed with your father? It's a good thing you two don't have children. A cake that's been bitten in two, no matter how much you like it, is disgusting. My mother advised me. Objectively speaking, my parents' marriage of several decades wasn't happy. They were together in name only. My mother never truly forgave my father until the day he died. I just can't accept it. How did I get through these past few years? Now that he's made some money, his true colors are showing. Haven't I just paved the way? For Seraphina, I said resentfully. I'd endured the hardest years with Orion, like a hardworking donkey, only to be discarded when I was no longer useful. I hated Orion when I thought of his heartlessness. They say a single day of marriage is worth 100 days of kindness. Since Orion was determined to divorce me, I had to think about myself. I decided to learn from Seraphina's divorce and take the initiative. I couldn't wait for Orion to have everything figured out before I made my move. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. I went to see Julian. I'd met Julian a few times. He knew I was Seraphina's best friend. He seemed surprised by my sudden visit. Seraphina and I have already settled things. Why are you here? Julian probably thought I was there because of Seraphina. I immediately explained my intentions, telling him about Seraphina seducing my husband. It's normal. She was never a faithful woman. It's my fault for being too soft-hearted. I should have divorced her the first time I found out she was cheating on me. Julian's words shattered my perception of Seraphina. I'd always thought their divorce was Julian's fault, that he'd cheated and been abusive. Of course, all of that came from Seraphina's mouth. You and Seraphina, wasn't it you who? Honey. A pregnant woman walked down the stairs. She was wearing a white nightgown and had short hair. She was plain-looking, with freckles on her cheeks. She was the mistress Seraphina had described. It was astonishing that such an ordinary-looking woman could steal a husband from Seraphina. Weren't you feeling unwell? Why aren't you resting? Julian went to help the pregnant woman, letting her sit beside him. I wondered if I should continue the conversation. Julian probably saw the hesitation on my face. It's okay. We have no secrets between us. I don't know what Seraphina told you, but during our marriage, she almost emptied my bank account. She was extravagant and demanded the best of everything. She had affairs with several men behind my back. She said she didn't like children, but I later found out it was because she'd had so many abortions that she couldn't get pregnant anymore. I gave her so much money in the divorce. I did everything I could. I just want to be completely done with her. I never imagined. I really didn't know Seraphina well enough. I thought we'd grown up together, that I knew her well. I only knew she was a bit materialistic, but I never knew she was like this. There's a lot more you don't know. She's like this because of her mother. Her mother covered for her several times during her affairs. After ending my conversation with Julian and leaving his house, I called Orion. I wanted to talk to him properly. Orion didn't refuse. He said he'd wait for me at home. I drove home, and he was already sitting on the sofa, waiting for me. He looked impatient. Just say what you need to say. I have to get back to the company. I just saw Seraphina's ex-husband. Did you know Seraphina can't have children? I asked him. I knew Orion liked children. He was the only son in 9 generations of his family. Carrying on the family line was extremely important to him. I know. She told me. She had an abortion for her ex-husband before. I don't mind. We can adopt. She had an abortion for her ex-husband? Do you know what her ex-husband told me? She kept telling us that her ex-husband cheated, but in fact, she was the one who had multiple affairs during their marriage. She had many abortions, but none of them were for her ex-husband. She's a promiscuous woman. Do you still like her? I looked at Orion. In my mind, he'd always been a mature and stable man. I didn't know what kind of magic Seraphina had used to enchant him so. Enough. Did you call me here just to slander her in front of me? She's not that kind of person. I was the one who pursued her. She kept refusing me, telling me to go back to you and live a good life, because she didn't want to hurt you. But I couldn't lie to myself. I don't love you at all. I married you because I had no other choice. Look at yourself. Do you have any feminine charm? You're a completely boring woman. I've had enough of you. Orion poured out his grievances in one breath. I was heartbroken to hear it. So, he thought I wasn't charming enough. He married me because he had no other options. So what? Now you think you have a choice? Do you think you and Seraphina will live happily ever after? Try being poor. See if Seraphina will even look at you. Orion, were you kicked in the head by a donkey? What kind of spell did Seraphina put on you to make you say such stupid things? I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't want to spend my life with a woman who doesn't excite me. Lyra, I'm sorry. Just treat me like a fart and let me go. Orion's words shattered any remaining hope I had. Fine. I'll let you go. I'll show you what the consequences of betraying a marriage are. I'll have the lawyer draft the divorce agreement and send it to you as soon as possible. We'll split the house and the company equally. It's marital property. Orion stood up, ready to leave. I didn't stop him or say anything. From now on, he was my sworn enemy. Split it equally? He was being too naive. Before Orion's divorce agreement arrived, I filed a lawsuit against him. The reason was simple. He'd misappropriated our marital assets without my knowledge. Orion had bought many luxury goods for Seraphina with our joint bank account. The bank account was marital property. Without my permission, he'd used that money to buy gifts and transfer money to another woman. I could demand that she return them. I hired a renowned divorce lawyer, a woman named Wang, who had a reputation for being very compassionate. My mom said you can skimp on anything but lawyers' fees. Seraphina never bought luxury goods online because she'd once received a fake. She always bought them in-store, and high-end luxury boutiques usually have surveillance cameras. Orion's bills had the payment time. I could easily check the surveillance footage to see who he was with. He couldn't deny it. Orion had bought over $500,000 worth of luxury goods for Seraphina: bags, clothes, jewelry. That money was what he and I had earned together through hard work. The court ordered Seraphina to return the gifts Orion had given her. Seraphina, of course, was unwilling. Clearly, Orion hadn't expected me to do this. Seraphina wouldn't return the items. Orion said he'd give me the money. I laughed. What money? Your money is our marital property, understand? What do you want? Orion asked in a low voice. I'd already humiliated him by suing him. If this matter couldn't be resolved, he'd have no face to show Seraphina. Do you have any assets that belong solely to you? Before we got married, you were penniless. All your assets are marital property. You want to use it to please your new lover? Fine, unless you voluntarily give up some of the marital property, like the house. The 2-bedroom apartment Orion and I were living in had cost just over $700,000 when we bought it. Housing prices had skyrocketed, and it was now worth almost $2 million. Orion disagreed. He wasn't stupid. The house was worth $2 million. If they split it equally, he'd get $1 million. He wouldn't use that to offset the $500,000 he'd spent on Seraphina. Fine, but you have to get back the things you bought for Seraphina immediately. Otherwise, I'll sue you again. The housing market was sluggish and houses weren't easy to sell. Orion had no choice but to grit his teeth and agree. We've reached this point, so I can't continue running the company with you. You can have the company, but you have to give me cash for my shares. We'll go our separate ways from now on. Orion's eyes lit up. He must not have expected me to willingly give up the company. The company was a golden goose. He agreed without hesitation. He gave me cash for my shares in the company, and the house was also mine. I didn't want the car, a BMW. Even if it was newly bought, it was still a used car and not worth much. The house and the cash were in my hands. I knew Orion's financial situation clearly. He'd spent money on luxury goods for Seraphina, and to get my shares in the company, he'd given me most of his cash. On the day we signed the divorce papers, I was particularly cheerful. Orion, in order to get rid of me and give Seraphina a title, had paid a hefty price. Orion moved into Seraphina's mother's house. Seraphina was divorced after all. She couldn't find a big boss, but she could find a small one. Her mother was probably very happy. Outsiders thought Orion was doing well and had probably made a lot of money in recent years. I knew the company's financial situation best. A project might earn at most $100,000 to $200,000, and that was for a big project. Many suppliers' payments were still outstanding. These were usually settled every 6 months after the client paid the final payment. The only money Orion had available was the initial payment from the client. Seraphina's mother, for some reason, probably wanted to collect wedding gifts again. Even though her daughter was getting married for the second time, she insisted on having a banquet. The invitations had already been sent out. In our small town, everyone knew everyone. The story of Seraphina seducing my husband couldn't be hidden. Seraphina and her mother were being gossiped about. Seraphina brought her grandmother from her hometown to attend the wedding. Someone told her grandmother about Seraphina's affair. The 90-year-old woman fainted from anger. In the end, the wedding was cancelled. I started my own company and, leveraging the network I'd built over the years, ran it successfully. Almost a year after the divorce, Orion came to see me. He looked embarrassed, his stubble unshaven, looking much older. Lyra, you have to help me this time. Otherwise, my company will go bankrupt. Orion was so anxious he was almost in tears. I'd already heard about his troubles. One of his foremen had gone to Macau and gambled away a large sum of money. He'd committed suicide. Orion had already paid him a portion of the project funds, which he'd also lost. Now that the man was dead, the debt was unrecoverable. He couldn't pay the workers' salaries or the suppliers' bills. For a business, running out of cash flow was a death sentence. What can I do? I don't have that much money. Why don't you ask Seraphina for help? She knows so many rich bosses. Surely she can think of a solution. I mocked him. Don't even mention her. She only cares about money. Now that my company is in trouble, she wants a divorce. I'm desperate. After Orion and I divorced, Orion hadn't made any money. He had no financial ability to buy another house. He and Seraphina had been living at Seraphina's house, making him a live-in son-in-law. You could imagine how that was going. He didn't have a house. Seraphina's mother was so shrewd that she would never use her own house as collateral for him. He couldn't think of any other way, so he had to swallow his pride and come to me. When we divorced, we settled everything clearly. We're adults. You should learn to pay for your mistakes. I found it laughable. For Seraphina, Orion had almost cut off all ties with me. Now that he was in trouble, he remembered his ex-wife. Lyra, I'm begging you. Do you want to see the business we built together destroyed? Don't you have any feelings for this company, for me, at all? You didn't care about destroying our years of marriage. Why should I care? Feelings? You're talking to me about feelings now? Where were you before? Where were you when you were enjoying yourself with Seraphina? You have the nerve to question me? What did you learn in school? I gave Orion a good dressing down. Seeing him leave in despair, I felt incredibly satisfied. I didn't agree to lend Orion money. Seraphina's mother, that old mistress, came to my house with Seraphina and caused a scene, threatening to sue me, saying Orion had a share in the house. I watched the two women throw a tantrum in my house and called the police, saying someone had trespassed. Seraphina and her mother were taken away by the police. If they weren't at their wits' end, why would they come to my house to cause trouble? Later, I heard that Orion had taken out a high-interest loan that he couldn't repay. The debt collectors went to Seraphina's house and beat up Seraphina and her mother. Seraphina divorced Orion. Orion ended up losing everything. After Orion and Seraphina divorced, he came to see me again. He said a lot of sweet words, wanting to get back together. I laughed and asked him, I'm not a garbage collector. Do you think I'd want someone else's trash? That was the last time I saw Orion. Before he left, he said regretfully, "The old saying is right. Marrying the wrong woman ruins 3 generations. The biggest mistake I ever made was betraying you with Seraphina. I can only repay my debt to you in the next life." Because he had nowhere else to turn to, he committed suicide via charcoal, but fortunately got discovered early and got saved. But there were severe lasting consequences. His relatives took him to the countryside to rest. As New Year approached, my mother arranged a blind date for me at a high-end hotel. The man was a teacher. We had a simple meal. To be honest, I wasn't interested in him, and he wasn't interested in me. After my failed marriage, I felt I needed some time to settle down. As I was leaving the hotel, I saw Seraphina, her mother, and an unfamiliar man chatting enthusiastically in the hotel lobby. The man had a greasy belly and was wearing a gold watch. He looked like a nouveau riche. My daughter is well-educated. If my son-in-law hadn't been such a bad person, my daughter wouldn't have gotten divorced. Mr. Joe, just get along with my daughter. As for the dowry, just give a lucky number. $666,600. How auspicious. Seraphina's mother was rambling on. How about $999,900? Even more auspicious, I interjected. For a twice-divorced woman who can't even have children, you really have the nerve to ask for $666,600? What are you talking about? Seraphina's mother's face turned red when she saw me. She looked like she wanted to explode, but had to hold it in. This gentleman here, I don't know what you're thinking, but my ex-husband married this woman and ended up bankrupt almost losing his life. What's it called? Maybe it's the legendary curse of the husband. If you don't believe in curses, you can try it. The man's expression changed after hearing my words. He grabbed his bag and stood up to leave. Lyra, what do you mean? Seraphina was clearly angry. She bit her lip and asked me. Me? Doing a good deed. Any man who gets involved with a woman like you is bound to be unlucky. If you, Seraphina, can still find a good husband in the city, I'll take your last name. I'll find a printing shop and print your glorious deeds into flyers and distribute them around your neighborhood so everyone knows what kind of person you are. Lyra, don't go too far. If you really do that, I'll sue you for defamation. Oh, you want to learn from me and use the law to protect yourself? Justice may be late, but it will never be absent. Just wait and see. I turned and left, leaving Seraphina and her mother fuming. Seeing Seraphina's furious expression, I felt an inexplicable sense of relief. Later, I heard from Jasmine that Seraphina thought she'd married an overseas Chinese, but he turned out to be a fraud. Seraphina was swindled out of her money and her body, and she was left with a mountain of debt. Even selling her mother's house wasn't enough to cover the debts. The mother and daughter were living a miserable life. Seraphina's mother was still trying to arrange blind dates for her, lowering the dowry from $666,600 to $220,000, then to $110,000. But no one was willing to marry Seraphina. See, the heavens have eyes. Everyone will eventually get what they deserve. This is called karma.